Forward all week to this day because we get to have two guests on that are the heartbeat of the show Task, which is on HBO. The first two episodes are available. Third one is coming out on Sunday at 9 p.m. And you've got to see the show. We were raving about it.
Yeah.
It's also from the creator of Mayor of Easttown, which everybody loved. And we would like to welcome a good friend of ours here to our studio. He's executive producer, writer, creator, all that great stuff, Mr. Brad Ingelsby.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me back on.
Of course. And, native to the area as well.
Exactly right.
Born in Westchester, grew up in
neighbor.
Berwyn.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Live there right now, guys.
So we're happy to have you back, and we're happy that you've got another one that you're knocking out of the park, because all of us are. It's already the show we're talking about. You know what I mean? With each other.
I love that. That's all we could. That's all we can hope when we write these things, is that people talk about it and watch it and engage with the episodes.
And it goes. And obviously, we're going to lean on the local angle because it's in our backyard here. But outside of being excited to hear about, Acme and Rita's and Wooder and Wawa and all that stuff, it is. You were calling it a white knuckle, Steve.
It is. So it's one of those shows that just has it rings true to a group of people, and we'll drill down on what it is. But it's a subject I love about the human condition. Decisions made, decisions regretted. There's no monolithic person who's all one thing or the other. So the guy who you think, and we're going to talk to Tom in a second, but who is the family guy who's got this other thing that's going on, but he's doing it sort of in service of his family, and he's making bad decisions, and you're watching this all play out with a level of authenticity that just rings true. And Casey and I were talking. We were the first ones who'd seen episode 1. The wrap up to that, we're like, mother of God.
Yep.
But it also kind of goes to show you, like at Robbie, Tom's characters, at his core, he's not a bad guy. Because if he were a bad guy, episode 1 would have wrapped up differently.
Well,
exactly.
Let's stop talking about Tom like he's not here, okay? He's actually joining us this morning via Zoom. Please welcome, he's Robbie Pendergrass, Mr. Tom Pelphrey.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey, happy to have you, Tom. Thanks so much. And dude, we're falling in love with this show. Your character. I just want to start on complimenting the thing that I noticed mostly about Tom, your performance, were the subtleties that you pull off as an actor that say so much by. I don't want to sound insulting by saying by doing so little, because that's not what it is.
You do so very little.
That's good. We want to avoid the big acting when we can.
Yeah, there's a scene where you're lying in bed with your daughter and you're tired. It's been a long day, and you're speaking in this whispered tone. And every now and then I try to look at a scene of a show or a film, and I'm like, that's a person who's working right now. Okay, this isn't a real emotion. And I have to think about what it was like for you. Like right before that scene started, you were probably up and ready to go, and you're here at work, and it's on. But then all of a sudden, you have to be tired and exhausted and settle back into that. Does that take? Can you just turn the switch like that, or is there a process you need to go to get to the right frame of mind for the character when a scene is coming on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in this show in particular, we had a really wonderful director, Jeremiah Zagar, and he really is interested in directing kind of specifically the way Brad is interested in writing, which is like Brad loves details. Brad really wants human beings. I think Brad will tell you that he'd rather think of the characters first and kind of the story second. Jeremiah directs very much the same way. So Jeremiah was constantly creating an environment for the actors wherein we could really relax into what was happening. And I think it shows up on the screen, to your point, where it's like the mood is such, the choreography or like the blocking on the day, all very naturalistic, all very like, you kind of could almost squint and feel like you were in your own home or something. It felt very relaxed. It felt there was no sense of that like performance energy. Jeremiah kept it very personal and soft, especially for the soft scenes. And it definitely, I think, went a long way. And I do think you can see it when you watch the show.
It plays through the whole thing. And Brad, to your writing and just the storytelling, again, And I was reading the number of articles have been popping up in the Inquirer and local papers and magazines about the show, obviously, as you would well imagine. And they listed off some of the movies that you said you were sort of weaned on. Mean Street, Straight Time, great movie. The Friends of Eddie Coyle, one of my favorites. And these all have, and they're the thing I love about them, Goodfellas, there is an authenticity to all of that. And then hearing how you sweat in advance of anything that you have coming out, because it's clear you take the time to do that. I wanted to ask you, this is obviously you're not of this world, you're not in a biker gang, and you're not, but so when, to get that authenticity, it must be difficult for you as a writer to strike the balance between servicing the story progression and capturing all of that as well. And how does that balance take place when you're concocting a show like Task?
Yeah, it's very painful, I would say. You're constantly going back into each scene and you're looking for details to make it stronger, richer, better.
May I mention one? There's the scene where Mark Ruffalo's character, who's a former priest, now FBI agent, is setting up for this, kind of career day thing.
Yeah.
And there's just a meticulous nature to how he's setting up his thing.
The brochure.
You clearly know he does not want to be doing this.
Yep.
I'm sure that's in the script that way. And so, is that on the set thing or is that on the page?
Well, I think some of it's on the set. Some of it is getting with an actor and going, how are we going to push this scene? But I think the question, Steve, is a good one. It's whenever I'm writing a scene, it's important to ask yourself, like, how is it, A, moving the story ahead? So there's plot points that need to be met, but also how is it revealing character?
Yeah.
In the instance of the scene you just talked about, here's a guy not on the front lines. He's going through the motions in life. How does Mark reflect that on screen? He eats a Hershey Kiss. He's kind of sitting there. He's opening his binoculars, right? The aggregate of those little tiny details is profound. I think about the scene with Tom and his kids in bed.
Yeah.
There's a great moment where he reaches over and touches his daughter's hand. That wasn't in the script. That was Tom and Kennedy, the actress. But as an editor, you're looking to add those moments because each of those little moments add up. And by the end of the show, you have something that's, something that starts to reward the viewer.
It's sort of a bittersweet thing because I love going to the movie theaters, right? And I grew up, I would go to the movies all the time, right? And so I miss that aspect of entertainment, going to the movies as much as I used to. But now with streaming, what this allows is for the story to breathe, right? So there have been things that were revealed very, very slowly in the first, but I'm not like, why? And so we got a couple of questions answered in the second episode, and I'm okay with that. And so as a writer, is that freeing for you? And you're like, okay, I don't have to try and squeeze this all in 2 hours.
It's freeing. I also think there's I love that you kind of slowly get the bigger picture. I love the patience, but I know there are viewers now that there's so many options that if something doesn't immediately pay off, they're flipping the channel. So I don't love that because I love how you slowly let the story unravel and it gets slower and richer and deeper as it goes along. But I also am aware of in the streaming era, people have so many options and they can turn and they can turn the show off, unfortunately.
Tom, I wanted to compliment you and the rest of the cast, especially Mark Ruffalo and Amelia Jones, who, by the way, I didn't know was going to be in this series. She was the lead in Coda, which is just
amazing,
an outstanding movie. She plays Ruby in that. One things that we're going to be scrutinizing in this area is the dialect and the accent. You guys nailed it. And from the first thing you said that made me realize we were in is you said trash boat. What are you talking about, trash boat? And you're not overdoing water either. You can overdo that. How you nailed it. How hard was the dialect to catch its subtleties but not be overt?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much. That was keeping me up at night in the beginning. Yeah, it was tricky in a way because I'm from Jersey. I'm from where we were filming, I'm from an hour away in Jersey. I'm from Central Jersey in Monmouth County.
So you're water adjacent.
No, listen, I am full water, like my whole life. That's what I say. That's how I say water. It's how. So there's certain sounds that I've always said that are the Delco sounds. But then the tricky part was there's a whole other bunch of sounds that I've never said before or heard anyone say before in person. You know, so that was the balance of like really wanting to find somebody who actually had the accent and see, because, you know, accents are funny things. Like my Jersey accent comes out more if I get angry or something, you know, like play your accent different. And then you want to hear that, well, what does it sound like if he gets excited when he has the accent? Eventually I got put in touch with a Delco guy. And listen, I don't want to out him by name because he's a Delco guy who's a Bills fan. Oh. Yeah, he's really like a big, So, but we would talk football and he could relax. We could really just, you know, get in a conversation where he wasn't super conscious that I was listening for the sound, even though he kind of knew. And so we could start to, like, I could start to hear the rhythm of the accent, and also when the rules applied and when you could kind of break them, you know, what happens if it's like the conversation sped up, what happens if everything is relaxed. And so, yeah, it was really helpful. I mean, filming in the community was such a boon for us. Like the atmosphere, the energy, there were people on set who had, you know, the accent and stuff like that. And also just from growing up in Jersey where I did, like, there's a kind of vibe to that. It was like so nice to be in that vibe while we're filming that show. Like it's like really is such an invisible element that served us well to be there in the area.
It resonates as real, and I think also and Brad and you know, both you guys obviously talking about going for that authenticity. Tom, I know that you were invested in actually the look, the tattoo selection for your character, and in fact you're rocking sort of an Allen Iverson tattoo, are you not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, how much latitude were you allowed, and how much B does it cost to have those tattoos put on and off, taken on and off?
Well, I don't know about the cost. You're gonna have to ask Brad about that. Yeah. Well, look, you know, we also had an advantage here where we had the script, and I got to sit with it for probably 6 or 7 months before we started filming, just the way that things played out. And so you're really, really letting it kind of marinate and thinking, like, I'm thinking, okay, Robbie's my age. Robbie grew up in Philly. Who would his heroes be? What's Allen Iverson, you know, like Allen Iverson would be a Philly guy. I thought he was the one. And so then it was like looking at all these pictures of Allen Iverson and thinking, oh, is there something about Allen Iverson I could like bring with me? And I saw these tattoos he has, which are amazing. And then I saw this one, and it's a Chinese symbol for loyalty. And I thought, that's it. Like that works for Robbie. And it could be that Robbie's, you know, honoring one of his sports heroes of childhood. So hence we get the loyalty tattoo. And these are all great conversations that I get to have with Brad, Jeremiah. You know, Brad really encourages he wants everybody to bring ideas, and you get to collaborate. And it's nice because it makes everybody kind of lean in, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it ends up, we're just a couple episodes in, but it permeates, and I love it. And that's what's driving it and makes it so intense, as it seems so authentic. So well done.
Tom, I wanted to ask you and Brad a question about music that in shows, because you were fantastic in Ozark. I love that show. And there's a scene where you're in a diner with your character Ben, with your sister, and there's a song that comes on called "New King of the Mountain" by Romani Rai, I think is how you pronounce the artist's name. And then in this show in Task, you're listening to a song by a band that I love named called Camp. And the song is All the Debts That I Owe. Some Pearl Jam shows up, The Long Road. Brad and I were talking off air. There's some Bruce Springsteen in there, Mother Love Bone.
Poison.
Poison shows, yeah. So it runs the gamut. Yeah. So for you, Tom, how important is music for the characters that you're playing, like Ben on Ozark and now in Task? And for you, Brad, like, what's it like selecting these songs, and what's the process like? And Tom, I'd like to ask you that question first.
Yeah, well, in this one in particular, I thought that the Pearl Jam song especially hit me in a place where I thought that was a beautiful kind of summation of a lot of the things that were going on with the character and the environment in a way that it was like, it felt almost literal in a sense that you don't often get with music. But the whole vibe, the whole tone of that, Brad had sent it to me a few songs, and I was like, this one, and that was kind of even a back and forth conversation, which is really cool. These are some of these conversations are conversations you don't get to be a part of as an actor, but Brad, that's not how Brad runs things. Brad wants these conversations. Brad wants you to be a part of it, which is special. Yeah. So the Pearl Jam song for me was the one that I thought, wow, there's something really good here about the character.
Yeah, it's The Long Road, and it's kind of a B-side, and it's a deep song, but it really fits in that scene. Did you select that, Brad?
Yeah, I talked to Tom about a couple ideas, but I think we also, I think he was getting at it with Allen Iverson. A part of the song choice has to stem from the character, and I always felt like Robbie, he grew up around here. This is a band that all of us listen to, Pearl Jam, right? So he would have a, I always, and there's also something about Eddie Vedder's voice that there's a yearning in his voice that I find. It's an iconic voice, but especially in The Long Road, and that's a scene about a guy who's looking across the bar. He sees a girl, and suddenly, wait, I made this horrible decision. What might have been in any other circumstance? What might have been? And Eddie's voice, I felt, kind of played into the yearning in that scene in a really nice way. And so Tom and I talked about it, and I think we did listen to a couple songs. Elderly Woman was another choice we talked about, but then I talked to Tom. He liked The Long Road, and we came to that decision. And then also, he's giving me a lot of compliments. He's such a collaborative, amazing guy, too. So I don't want to hear it all from his side. He's one of the best I've ever worked with and one of the best people.
We'll just accept that you're both great and move on. Yeah.
So speaking of things that Robbie may have grown up with, within the first 3 minutes of the first episode, there are 2 radio moments. And then throughout the entire episode, I counted 5 radio moments.
5? Wow. How many were
there's a radio station that's been on the air here for 57 years in Philadelphia. And in fact, there's a morning show that's been on this station for 28 years.
Oh, and by the way, we deal drugs.
We deal drugs.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And we play Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I should have been more diligent in getting you in there. Next time, if we ever get to do it again, we got it.
There will be another series down the road.
It's so good, we'll forgive you for that.
Listen, I want to take this opportunity to make this interview about myself. Tom, you probably don't know this. Brad, I don't know if you do, but I'm the unofficial mayor of Delaware County, the unofficial mayor of Delco.
Wait, we got
Here it is.
We have the certificate.
Yep, there's the certificate.
I'm a lot.
Yeah. I am a lot.
I'm a lot. Yeah. It says I'm a lot. Nice to meet you, Mr. Mayor. Also, Mr. Mayor is wearing a very cool Pee Wee Herman shirt.
Which is surprising
for those listening at home.
Because normally I'm wearing like a Delco shirt or something like that, but I went with Pee Wee this morning. No, but I want to say that, man, there was a lot of buzz in Delco when this was filming. I live in Broomall, which is right around the corner from Newtown Square. And the first I heard rumblings was that Mark Ruffalo was at a Cut Above Deli.
Yep.
And I was like, what? Like, I go there all the time. But there was a huge rumbling. And so I just assumed at that time that maybe Mark had set up camp and was living in Newtown Square. Tom, I don't know where you had set up camp, but like, Brad, did you give these guys any tips as to like, hey, this is where you should stay while, we're during the course of
I think,
shooting?
Tom, you and I talked about, Tom, where were you? You were in Penn Valley, I think, right? I think he was,
exactly right.
He was there. Ruffalo lived in the city, I believe.
Oh, he did? Okay.
He lived in the city. And most of the actors did just because if they had to leave town or if they had to go out. But I love Cut Above, too. I'll also give them a shout out because I'm there all the time. So I have
roast
to give
beef, man. Listen, everybody talks about the cutlets, and they're great. But the roast beef sandwich in Cut Above is fantastic, man.
It's good eats. I wanted to ask you, Brad, about your writing again. It's the fascinating process behind it. We talked about the meticulous nature of how you balance things out. But I was surprised to learn that you almost always write in the morning.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And in fact, you say you're kind of useless in the afternoon. And we always think of the somebody who might write material like this is being up all night with the bottle of bourbon and sweating it out. Why do you think that works for you that way?
I think, Steve, it's just a practical thing. I used to write all night when I was in college and graduate school, and then you have kids, you know. And so what happens now is, you know, at about 3 o'clock every day, the kids are getting home from school, and I have to become a dad and a driver to practices and a coach on the teams. And so I really had to kind of flip my schedule so that when the kids are at school, I use that time as my writing time. And then when they get home, you know, I want to be their dad and be there to help with homework and the practices and stuff. And so I try to do that. But then there's always an hour at night where I'm like scribbling in my notebook going, I got to hit the ground running tomorrow. I need a couple good ideas to get me going.
Right.
Well, your attention to detail is noted because we have this guy on hold. I'm not going to be able to go to his phone call, but I am going to quote what he says here. This is Mike, who's a local wildlife expert. He said, "You even got the type of birds right." You said Mark Ruffalo bird watches in episode 1, and it is accurate to that region.
The summer tanager.
So you know, we also have a lot of tech advisors on these shows who come in and help us. And so I don't know much about birding, but we ask those questions to people who do know.
Tom, obviously we're celebrating Task, but Nick had mentioned earlier Ozark, and also you're known for Iron Fist and several other things. And I wanted to see, you know, how your career arc has played out and how far you've come. If you were to guess on the IMDb profile page of you, what would you say is your first credit that they would list? Do you remember?
Oh boy, the first. Guiding Light, I guess.
Well, they had it down as you were. It was either a show or a movie called The Berg, and your character was called Douchebag Doug. You've come a long way since Douchebag
Doug.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, let me tell you something. Iron Fist, and I was telling these guys, you played. I knew that you had that sort of something on screen because you were playing a douchebag. But then I'm like, wait. Somehow I think I understand where this douchebag is coming from. and so I said, and seeing you pop up subsequently then validated that you obviously had the chops to carry it on. But a Guiding Light, by the way, we hear it all the time, and I'm looking up at a screen, by the way, if it seems I'm looking away here. We hear that's like the best training ground for an actor because you are handed pages of dialogue that you got to crank out every day. Did you find that was the experience with the soap opera training?
Yeah, you know, so for just as an example, you know, when Brad and I are doing Task, on average, we're doing 5 or 6 pages of the script per day to film, you know, around there. Let's say around 5 pages. On the soap, we were doing 55 pages a day.
Whoa. Jesus.
Because the soap had a new episode come out every single day. We had 1 week off a year between Christmas and New Year's. And so every day we were at work from 7 a.m. until about 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, rain or shine, because you had to keep up. You know, we're filming only just about a month ahead of when it would air. You know, you would have 3 cameras in a proscenium, and they would basically do a live edit from the booth.
Wow.
While we were filming. And unless a light fell on your head, you got to do it once.
Wow. I had no idea it was that
So
rigorous.
you learned how to show up prepared. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so then I wanted to highlight some of the acting that you've done with the kids on Task, Tom, because it's really terrific. Particularly Ben Lewis Doherty, who plays Sam. I mean, all of the kids that are in the house with you and the character Maeve, Amelia Jones, and the scene with you and Amelia Jones on the porch is really intense and terrific. The back and forth between you guys, but you with the kids. Was that challenging? A chicken shows up at one point. You have, Sam goes out and you know need to help him relax a little bit by petting this chicken that's in the yard. What was that experience like for you?
It's the best. It's kind of like a cheat code, in my opinion. You know, the kids are so honest. They're so truthful always. One, it's a lot more fun in between takes to have a bunch of kids around on set. It's hilarious. But then 2, the kids, the animals, they're so in themselves that if you kind of give over to just being with them on their level, I think it creates like much more interesting behavior in a way where you don't even have to think. You kind of just the kids aren't acting in a way. They are, but they're just going to bring themselves in such an honest way. I feel like it keeps you more honest when you get to be in a scene with them.
And real quick, is that chicken's name Gritty or Gertie?
Gertie.
Gertie.
I thought you heard Gritty.
I was rooting for Gritty.
I don't know.
We're not in Minnesota.
Brad, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but do Task and Mayor of Easttown live in the same universe?
Well, we don't, it's a question we get all the time. It's a tough one to answer. They live in the same universe in that they're taking place in the same area, but there's no crossover. It's not like Mayor is going to appear in Task. What I mean the same universe is if you look at the streets we shot on, if you look at the interiors of the homes, like I want the audience to feel like, oh, it's Delaware County again. Like I know this place. Right. Is Mayor down the street at a Wawa? Sure, but that doesn't mean she's going to play a part in this story. Task is its own narrative, but they exist within the same part of the country.
And that's the complex nature of life. I mean, these things, and that's, again, going back to what I said earlier about the characters, is that everyone has a moment where they've done something kind for someone, and then they're fending off a biker gang. Maybe not to that various levels, and that's what makes the characters so interesting. And with Mayor, that was the same thing as well. You had characters that had all sorts of things that were going on.
Yeah.
And you're defined, I think, by the collection of your life's decisions, not just the last one.
Well, I urge you to remember that. That plays a big part in the show, especially as it gets to the end, Steve, that I think human beings can be many, many things at once. Right? They can be mean and they can be kind. Like that's what defined Mayor in so many ways. Is she was incredibly nice to strangers and a pain in the ass at home. And she was, and
she made some wrong calls.
She made terrible decisions, and yet you always said, well, it was to keep her all the family in order. So I think what we're always trying to do in these shows is to lean into the contradictions in people and the complexities, and I think that's my experience with human beings is that they can be many things at once, and all of them are true.
I love that.
As you're writing these scripts and the story, do you already have like locations in mind, and who do you collaborate with people as to where we're going to shoot? And I want to ask specifically about that quarry because I was like, I need to go there. I want to go swimming in that quarry, but you can't.
You can't.
Yeah, that's a dangerous quarry. The one quarry is very dangerous. Tom was there; he can attest. So I think for me, when I write stories about the area, I have a production designer I've worked with a bunch of times now, and I'll call Keith and say, listen, I think this is where the character lives. Okay. As an example, Tom, the Ruffalo character, we found a house in Broomall, and I would say to Keith, here are some streets where I think this is the type of house he would live in. Like, go just drive those streets and ask around if anyone will let us in. So, and then with Robbie, we felt like he lived way out in Elverson or something. He lived out in a more wild area, a more rural area. And so you definitely have areas that you've driven by, of, and then you can point people in the right direction at least.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Brad Ingelsby and Tom Pelphrey, and we're talking about the show Task, which you can find on HBO, streaming on HBO Max. A new episode comes out on Sunday, 9 o'clock. There's 2 so far that have aired. Tom, speaking of that quarry, obviously you have stunt people and nobody can go getting hurt. You had to have taken a jump into that thing, though, right?
Yes, of course. We did multiple jumps. We didn't jump off none of us got to jump off the biggest one, but we got to jump in a lot and we spent a whole day jumping in off this one.
That's gotta be fun. Almost like not work.
It is cool.
It really was like not work.
we found out in an article that we might have been in the Inquirer, one of the mags, that's a particularly dangerous quarry.
Yes.
So they obviously had to take care of that.
Why is it so dangerous? Is there like old equipment in there and stuff?
There's really steep rock faces, and so I think there have been instances of kids going and jumping off the tallest peak there.
You gotta watch
it's
that.
really high, but it's really stunning to look at.
I wanted to ask you, Brad, how long, because Martha Plimpton is in the series, and
she's
it's
fantastic.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
How long before you asked a Goonies question?
You know what? It's funny. A funny story is I asked her one question, and I'll never ask her another question. She was like, enough of the Goonies. I don't want anyone else to ask me about the Goonies. I'm done with the Goonies. Like, I must have been
You were shut down.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
said,
asking-
my kids watched it. She's like, enough.
It's
I'm
like
not
asking
talking
Tom about douchebag dog. He's had enough.
Such a
Except
character.
Tom doesn't even remember this.
Tom, when somebody trains to be in a movie, you know, if they're going to play an FBI agent or a cop or whatever, you know, they'll do gun training. They'll do things where they're learning how to, you know, to enter a building properly or check corners or whatever. Your character is not that, and this you're kind of going up against the FBI. Did you have to do any type of training in order to portray the character that you're playing in this show?
We spent a day or two at the sanitation department learning about the truck.
Really?
Yeah, we spent time there with the truck. Learning how to work it, learning what the protocol would be. How do you check the mirrors? Where are you looking? How do you, if you want to rotate, if one guy's driving and one guy's working the back versus like staying in the back, meaning, and holding on versus coming up to hop in the cab. So yeah, those guys were awesome with us. Actually gave us really great box of like pasta and olive oil. I still remember.
The garbage guys did?
Yeah.
Did you ask where it came from?
I went back and tried to get more. The olive oil really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Those trash guys see everything.
They see everything. Yeah.
They know what's good and what's bad.
I love that idea.
How many episodes total, Brad? Is it an 8-episode arc?
Actually, only 7 episodes.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know 7 episodes in this one.
Tom, did you know that Brad does not watch the finished product? He just can't bring himself to do it. Are you aware of that?
No way. Really?
Well, after I get out of the edit, Tom, I'll never watch it as long as I live. I just can't go back because I only see the things that I messed up, you know?
Well, can I jump in here quickly?
Well, you
because
didn't mess anything up, buddy.
and I'm sure Tom,
So sweet.
you'll agree with this. You are such a visual writer. I would assume that directing, you know, is a logical writer-director transition, or is the notion of having to see these things constantly so onerous to you that would stop you from becoming a director?
No, I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of really given that some thought, and I think if we did another show, I would be interested in taking, you know, an episode and directing it and see, especially if I have actors like these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said with this show, we cast it in the right way. The acting is so good with Tom and Mark, and Amelia, I think, is such a standout in this show. I mean, across the board, everybody, Allison and Fab and Sylvia and so many actors. But if, you know, as I've gotten older, I've thought, well, I can write. I'm in the edit. I'm just missing this I'm missing something in the middle. Maybe I could take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Tom, I've known Brad since he was a kid. Since I was a kid too. My brother Adam played Little League baseball with Brad and Brad's brother Martin. And I just have to tell you from a Philly perspective, for somebody who's known him for most of his life, how proud we are. My family and I are of it. We talk about you all the time, Brad. And so, Tom, I would like to give you the opportunity to say nice things about Brad, too, because he's the coolest guy. He's so talented. Out of the Furnace was incredible. Mayor of Easttown was incredible. And now, Tom Pelphrey, you say nice things, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing is that sometimes when you have a very talented individual, you don't also get to have a very generous, kind human being. And that's okay. We can't all, you know, do it all. But Brad does. And in fact, I think that part of what makes Brad a special talent is the human being that he is. Because Brad is invested in each individual's humanity. And it shows up in how he writes his characters. He refuses to leave a character without a reason why. And so what that does to us as an audience is it leaves us in a place where we might not approve, but we have to understand. And, you know, if I could be so bold, this is how I see Brad treat everyone on his set. Obviously, this is how I see him treat his lovely family. This is my experience as his friend. It's very beautiful. It's very generous. It's very much the a human being who loves other human beings. It's very special to be around. The icing on the cake was getting to be in the community where Brad grew up, and to come there and to bring work there and to see everybody excited about being there. I just thought, as someone who loves where I'm from, I just thought, man, I hope Brad's proud of himself in some way, because it's one thing to succeed in this business. It's another thing to succeed in your community. I know that's important to him, and I see him doing it, being here with you guys, hearing you talk. It really transcends our business in a way that's very special, and I'm just grateful I got to be a part of it.
Oh man, thank you, Tom. That was beautiful.
Beautifully
Jeez,
put.
I'm blushing here, buddy.
But you know what? And I'll say this: we have a couple of M. Night Shyamalan in the area has supported the area and has been we in this area we love people who stay in the area, or at least visit frequently, or at least go to a Wawa now and then. And same thing with the athletes. And there just seems to be something special about that. You're carrying on that tradition. Are you, in fact, acquaintances with Knight, or are you?
I've never met him. I think we were supposed to jump on we were supposed to do like an interview together, but it ended up not. So I've actually never met him, which is crazy because there aren't that many of us in the area who are working on. So strangely, we've never met.
I guarantee you, he's got to be a fan. I'm sure he's got to know.
We'll get you guys together. We'll make it happen. We'll see if we can do that.
And Tom, you're in on that too.
Yeah.
Hey, cool. Thanks, guys. Hey, you got any ins with Bruce Springsteen? Can I meet him?
This station was integral in Bruce's success.
Right. Yeah.
Well, listen, the show's fantastic. I can't wait to see where this goes. And by the way, it's the #1 show on HBO.
It knocked out Peacemaker.
Knocked Peacemaker
on
down.
HBO Max.
Number one on that list right there. So it's easy to find. You just go on the HBO app and you'll see it. But you've got to check this out. Don't let it get too far away from you. Sunday nights are when the new episode. And I love the episodic rollout.
Yes.
There are times I like to binge, and then there are other times
I want it this way.
I want to take my time with this.
We can talk about it
and let it all sink in. So 9 o'clock. You'll find that on HBO, and you're going to love it, especially in this area. They get it right. It's all over Delaware County. The accents are spot on. The references are great. Obviously, you've got, Mark Ruffalo and Amelia Jones and Tom Pelphrey. It's just, we're loving every second.
Yeah, man.
So congratulations to you guys, and thanks for joining us, Brad. It is great to see you. Tom, wonderful to meet you, and we'd love to have you by if you're ever in Philly sometime, okay?
I would love that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Anytime. Tom Pelphrey and Brad Ingelsby. The show is called Task. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back in just a moment, so make sure you stay with us.